The modernization theory was originated with the ideas of German sociologist Max Weber regarding the role of rationality and irrationality in the transition from traditional to modern society. This approach provided the basis for modernization paradigm as popularized by Harvard sociologist Target Parson, who translated Weber's work into English in 1930s and provided his own interpretation. After 1945, the Parsonian version became widely used in sociology and other social sciences. By the late 1860s, opposition developed because the theory was too general and did not fit all societies in the quite same way. What is modernization theory? Modernization theory is used to explain the process of modernization within societies. Modernization refers to a model of progressive transition from a pre modern or traditional to a modern society. Modernization theory is a grand theory encompassing many different disciplines as it seeks to explain how society progresses, what variables affect that progress, and how societies can react to that progress. Modernization theory focuses specifically on the type of modernization uh, thought, thought to have originated in Europe during the 17th century, which brought social mores and technological achievements into a new era. For a country to be seen as modern, modernization theory says it has to undergo an evolutionary advance in science and technology, which in turn would lead to an increased standard for all. Now, the aim of modernization theorists. The aim of modernization theorists are to explain why countries fail to evolve into modern societies and reduce the spread of communism by presenting capitalist values as a solution to poverty. So, with regard to the second point, after Second World War, many countries in Asia, Africa had failed to develop and remained poor despite exposure to capitalism. So, there was concern amongst the leaders that communalism might spread into many countries. Therefore, therefore, in late 1940s, modernization theories. Therefore, uh, therefore, in late 1940s, modernization theory was developed. Modernization theory explained the underdevelopment of countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, primarily in terms of cultural barriers to development, basically arguing that developing countries were underdeveloped because their traditional values held them back. Other modernization theories focused more on economic barriers to development. In order to develop, less developed countries basically needed to adopt a similar path to development to the West. They needed to adopt Western cultural values and industrialize in order to promote economic growth. Modernization theory favored a capitalist and in an industrial model of development. They believed that capitalism encouraged efficient production through industrialization, the process of moving towards factory based production. Industrial Industrial refers to production taking care in factories rather than the home or small workshop. This is large scale production. Capitalism, a system where private money is invested in industry in order to make a profit and goods are produced are for sale in the marketplace rather than for private consumption. Walt Whitman Rostow. Walt W. Rostow was one of the most influential modernization theorists of US. His book, The Stage of Development, 1960, development. Rostow's evolutionary ladder of development. Number one, the traditional society based on subsistence farming, fishing, forestry, and some mining. Number two, precondition for takeoff, building infrastructure that is needed before development can take place. Example, transport network, money from farming, power supplies, communications. Takeoff, introduction, and rapid growth of manufacturing industries, better infrastructure, financial in investment, and culture change. Move to maturity. New ideas and technology improve and replace older industries. Economic growth spreads throughout the country. High mass consumption. People have more wealth and so buy services and goods. Consumer society. Welfare systems are fully developed. Trade expands. Now, modernization theory. A role of West in developing countries. Western investment in factories, expertise, and equipment use loans from world banks. Western fundings to introduce meritocratic education. Mass media to disseminate modern ideas. Urbanization to be encouraged. Criticism of modernization theory. It is ethnocentric because it devalues traditional values and social institutions, example, extended families. It ignores increasing inequalities within and between countries. It is not a neutral theory as it suggests. It promotes Western capitalist values. Education in developing world mainly benefits small local elites. It assumes unlimited natural resources for industrial expansion. It ignores ecological issues. Many countries seem to have become stuck at stages and can't move into stage 4 and 5. Developed countries only reach stage 5 by exploiting countries, now making it impossible for poorer countries to develop further. High levels of debt and corruption mean some countries struggle to progress. It is probably not possible for all countries to enjoy mass consumption. Some countries will need to specialize in primary products to satisfy our demands and foods and raw materials because jobs in primary industries are less well paid. It will probably mean that they are as wealthy as cannot enjoy a mass. In conclusion, two general remarks can be made. First, the modernization theory is clearly an oversimplified model of development that lacks two essential ingredients: an adequate historical input and historical and structural perspective. Historically, it ignores the wealth of evidence which indicates that the process of economic growth cannot be encapsulated in simplistic notion about the displacement of traditional value system and institutions by modern ones. Structurally, the theory is insensitive to the specific way in which factors for economic growth, such as the introduction of new technology or markets, may be interpreted or modified or accommodated within existing social relationships. In addition, the inequalities of power and social class that structures this relationship are virtually ignored.